Coming up on Theater Talk.
I'm a sloth. I am lazy. I
now,
don't bite
Patti.
a word of that. My new expression is, if I wasn't standing up, I'd be lying down.
Yeah, I have to disagree with that last comment made. Because my parting words to her yesterday before the opening of the show was like, honey, you put me to work. No slouching around you.
Theater Talk is made possible in part by the CUNY TV Foundation. From New York City, this is Theater Talk. I'm Susan Haskins.
And I'm Michael Riedel of the New York Post. Now, Susan, there are a batch of new musicals coming to Broadway this spring, and the one I am most excited about is War Paint, a fascinating musical about the rivalry between Helena Rubinstein and Elizabeth Arden. And it stars two of the greatest musical theater performers, two of the greatest actresses on stage of all time. We are very happy, I can see. We're joined by the great Patti LuPone and the equally great Christine Ebersole. Welcome.
Thank you.
And they brought along, God knows why, their director, Michael Greif. Welcome all to Theater Talk.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so Patti, we'll start with you. Helena Rubinstein, what do we know about her, and what have you come to admire most about her?
I don't think we know that much about her because that name has gone missing in cosmetics in America, at least. I'm not sure exactly what it is I admire about her. I mean, I'm fascinated with her. She was an incredibly complicated lady.
Totally self-made.
Yes, and but what she accomplished is what is extraordinary. Both of them became these creators and CEOs of empires before women had the right to vote, and they were. Well, in Helena's case, I will not speak for Elizabeth, but she was. I think it was survival more often, above everything else. It was how to survive her condition. She was born into poverty, cultured family, but poverty, and then she bucked her father by not marrying his choice, and so she was banished from her home and, farmed out to an aunt and then farmed out to Australia, to uncles, where she, in fact, escaped potential sexual abuse, went to Melbourne, started her business. She left Poland and Austria with 12 pots of cream that her mother would apply on the 8 sisters, which was a combination made by a pharmacist for a very famous Polish actress. And I don't know how the mother got the formula, but Helena took it with her, and that's how she began her business.
And that was the basis, wow.
In Australia, in Melbourne. And then she was very clever, she was shrewd, and she knew how to connect with certain individuals that promoted her. I don't have any of those qualities that she has that made her successful. I'm a sloth. I am lazy. I don't bite a word of that. That's the truth. I keep saying, my new expression is, if I wasn't standing up, I'd be lying down.
Your mind is very active when you're lying down.
Well, I would have to disagree with that last comment made. Because my parting words to her yesterday before the opening of the show was like, honey, you put me to work. No slouching around you.
Liar.
Girl.
Liar.
I love performing, but after that, it's downhill.
When I think of all the auditions that you two went through to crack into show business, it's impossible for you to have been lazy.
Well, do you want to answer that? Because I didn't go through that.
Because you went through the performing group.
The acting company handed me my career.
Yeah, the acting company.
So
you were just lazy
No.
and lucky.
I will say that I was lazy, and I very rarely got anything I auditioned for.
Really?
That's why I gave up wanting roles and trusting what came in my direction was what I was supposed to do.
Wow.
But Christine has a different story.
Were you making the rounds all those
Well,
years?
I moved to New York when I was 20 years old. I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts and then did what every actor does when they graduate. I became a waitress. But it was an interesting thing for me because I had gotten an agent when I was at the American Academy because I did a play called The Robesart Affair, which was about the young Queen Elizabeth and her affair with the keeper of the horses, or supposed, alleged affair. The person who represented the playwright, Frances Letton, was a woman named Lucy Kroll, who was a very famous Hollywood agent at the time.
Know the name.
And she came to see me in the show, and she took me on. And she called me one night and said, "Darling, you're on Broadway." And that's how it happened. So I didn't have an equity card. I had earlier in the year, I had auditioned for Shepard Traub. Christine Andreas was playing the part of in Angel Street, which was the movie Gaslight, which was Angela
Alex
Lansbury's
Cohen,
first film role. And she went on to do My Fair Lady with Rex Harrison, so they needed a replacement. So Shepard Traub bought my equity card for me, and I left, I said, got to leave you little people, the great white house. And then they closed the show in 3 weeks, and I was back begging for my job. So it was quite a humbling experience. But that was my launch.
Tell us a little bit about Elizabeth Arden now. We have a little bit about Helena. Is there something you admire or respect about her, and how did she build her empire?
Of course, and I think it's interesting how the competition between the two women really spurred them on, to outdo the other person and be better. But there's a lot of similarity, between the characters. And, I just admire the fact that she came from this, dirt farm in
She was
Ontario.
poor too.
Yeah, very poor. Lost her mother when she was 6 years old to tuberculosis. Was sort of put in charge of the horses in the barn. And I think that was sort of served as a stabilizing force for her in this trauma that she experienced by losing her mother, and what horses represented to her, that somehow I think as the actor that's trying to instill the humanity in the character, that's kind of what was the stabilizing force for her, but also kind of was a way of delivering her out of the farm and into, to the gates of the castle and perhaps through the doors.
And a horse that won the Kentucky Derby.
Exactly. And I think that also represented that sort of high society and how she was going to, elevate herself from that and then totally find acceptance,
Yeah, they were both
Helena had the creams. Was there something that she had in the beginning?
Well, it was really the packaging, you know what I mean? That was the kind of, that's how we complemented one another,
And Michael, it's so fascinating.
Yes, Michael, we know you're here. Don't worry.
I'm very happy to listen
We were
to you.
Here's the wonderful book, War Paint. But
Yes.
in real life, these two women, although they had big businesses in New York, they never met, except perhaps they were once in a restaurant together.
Yes,
No,
sir.
they went to several events together.
They were events together,
Yeah,
but they were.
go ahead, sorry.
But you've constructed this wonderful musical from two characters. They didn't hang out.
They didn't.
No, they were competitors, but they did not want to meet. Correct?
as far as
Yes,
we know.
as far as we know, as far as
that's the
urban
myth.
legend and the myth tell us.
Nobody invited
It was
anybody to
very
watch.
important that they remain apart.
Yes, yes.
And the musical takes,
Yes,
great
it does.
delight in how to put them in like situations, perhaps put them in places that neither of them are aware that they're both present. And
And they share men in a certain way.
And that is in fact true.
Yes.
That is among the extraordinary realities
Tell
of
us
the
about
musical
that.
War Paint. Elizabeth Arden was married to Tommy Lewis, and not as quickly as it happens in our musical, but Tommy Lewis did in fact divorce Elizabeth Arden and go to work for Helena Rubinstein. This is true. And Helena Rubinstein also had a very, very close associate who left Helena Rubinstein and went to work at the Elizabeth Arden Company.
They despise the two guys?
Seemingly not. And both of those men lasted very, very, very long times and had healthy
your guy
careers.
threaten he's going to bring the formulas?
Right. That he
Does,
does.
Yeah, he does bring some
and I
formulas.
don't believe we've ever specifically read that,
Yeah.
in fact.
But-
that is one of the wonderful inventions by our fantastic
You
playwrights.
don't depict either of these women as being the best of wives or girlfriends, and they were in a life where men were treating them very badly. They had to fight that, and then they didn't end up having the most harmonious relationships. True? Defend that.
Well-
True or false?
No, true.
Yeah.
I think that Helena had a fear of intimacy, because first husband, Edward Titus, loved her very much, and I think she loved him, but it was a real mixed match. He was an intellectual, she was not. And it was a long and hard relationship, even after they had divorced. And she had 2 boys that she didn't raise. And she brought a family over from Poland, who she, in fact, saved from World War II, and put them to work in all of her salons, but treated them like employees, and then pitted them against each other.
Oh, God.
So, and why? Why?
And yet there's tremendous warmth and attractiveness about everything she does as well. You know, there's that interesting dichotomy.
Yeah.
That's so true of Elizabeth as well.
Yes.
You know, they were great successes because they understood people and they knew how to get what they needed from people. And there were tremendous personalities.
And they were great salespeople, were they not?
And,
Yes.
They invented marketing.
Exactly.
Branding
from their
and marketing terms that
extraordinary-
really weren't even around then. They created this.
Yes, that extraordinary understanding of what their clients would want.
Right, and also this notion, terrible word, but it certainly has taken root, lifestyles. You know, Elizabeth Arden created the whole Elizabeth Arden lifestyle. When you went into the spa, it was all Elizabeth Arden.
Exclusive.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Helena Rubinstein collected a magnificent.
That was her marketing.
Yes.
Her salon had artwork in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this, Christine and I were talking about this earlier, and Christine said it.
If you have money, you're eccentric. If you don't have money, you're crazy. If you have money, you're a collector. If you don't have money, you're a hoarder.
You're back, yes, exactly.
And Helena was a collector.
Collector.
She could afford the shelf space. Right?
Yes, they made enough closet space. For
Yes.
themselves.
And you know, I thought of what I did admire about her. I'm sure I admire a lot. But I admired her real estate. She had serious real estate.
Absolutely, absolutely. Not a lot of shows have that old-fashioned out-of-town tryout the way you guys did in Chicago, right? I'm curious to know, Michael, what are the kinds of changes you're making out of town, and how involved are you guys in influencing the rewriting or the changing of the show? Are you interested to know what,
Absolutely.
She learns about her characters.
I'll answer both of those terrific questions.
Okay.
Certainly any show that I've been associated with that had a wing and a prayer has had an out-of-town tryout. There are just too many variables on these musicals, to get it all right, I think. So we learned an extraordinary amount from our very, very smart audience at the Goodman Theater in Chicago. The show has gotten streamlined.
Yeah.
It's gotten leaner. We trust that information is landing. You actually make room for some emotional moments when you weed out some of the ideas.
Some of the expository stuff.
Exactly. Not only expository, but some of the themes that we were very invested in. And you find the way in which that theme is actually landing. That event takes care of that theme. So now let's make a little more room for something that has a little more to do with the emotional life of these women. It's been that kind of process. And then I will say that Christine and Patti have been extraordinarily influential and helpful in shaping this material throughout its entire developmental process, not only since Chicago to here. And it's different now because you've had the experience of playing it. You've had that extraordinary security of knowing what it's like in front of an audience, and you can bring that to it. But even before Chicago, Doug Wright, our book writer, and Scott Frankel and Michael Corey, our composer and lyricist, were always in deep, interesting conversations with these two great
Yes, how soon
actors.
did they understand they were going to be able to write for these voices?
Well, as these voices became attached to this project, they began to write
would think
for
they-
these voices. And it's not only the literal voice, but we had the huge pleasure of knowing Christine and Grey Gardens.
Of course, yeah.
We know that.
You were the outsider here, Patti.
Well, but Patti also got to develop this show with us for a number of years, and that was a huge pleasure. We got to know Patti, and all the material really got geared to them.
And anything specific from either one of you when you're working on the show out of town, something in your character that's not there that you think should be there, that you contribute to? Anything that you adjusted in Elizabeth Arden while you were working on the part?
Well, I think that for me, the 11 o'clock number Pink has so much information in it, So I think that it was kind of, working backwards from that, that it's almost like a 3-act play. It's like an aria, you know, doing that song. So there's so much information in there that, you know, was able to be laid out, and, you know, the seeds got planted, you know, the footprint got planted, so that when you got to the 11 o'clock number, they weren't reveals.
Oh, I see. Oh, so
They were confirmations.
Exactly,
They were
exactly.
things that we were. There was an extraordinary inevitability about
Exactly.
them. They're still surprising. They're still revelations, but they're funded along the way.
And you
Exactly.
have two 11 o'clock numbers.
Yes, we do.
Really, two 9:30 numbers, and then whatever you do your.
I think our producer wants us to say 9:15.
We're like 10:15.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah,
we're starting now at 8. When we start at 7,
See, the
soon
time
we'll
was
have
going
7
so
o'clock
fast
shows.
for me that I thought.
I have to just say that, you know, I've done my share of musicals in this town, and I've never worked with a more collaborative group of creators in my career, which gave me confidence to, in fact, voice an opinion. And the more I believed that they heard me, the more responsible I felt in really understanding my character and contributing if I felt I needed to. I don't think I've ever had that experience where that the actor was trusted as much. And I just have to say, years ago, when David Mamet's play The Water Engine was downtown at the Public Theater, directed by Stephen Schachter, produced by Joe Papp, and they were going to move it from the Martinson up to the Plymouth. They were going to drop the fourth wall. And at that point, it was a radio show where we were talking. Colin Stinson came down and talked to the audience. We were in a radio studio. The on-air sign came on, and the radio play started. He said, when we found out that they were going to drop the fourth wall, that we couldn't deal with the audience up at the Plymouth, he said, you can only be an audience member once, then you start to second guess the audience. We start at A every single night, and you never take our perspective into consideration. And I went, holy, that is so true. And I say that because this is not the case. They know that Christine and I know what is going from the stage to the audience. And they trust our ability, our talent, and our knowledge. And that is rare, unbelievably rare.
I mean, you guys have been around musicals, big part of your life. You know how they're put together, and
But
you know
that
how they
doesn't
work.
necessarily give us permission.
But it's also very rare to do a new musical.
Yeah.
I was going to use the word diva, but I'm told you guys both eschew that word diva. You don't like the
Well,
word
I
diva?
think it has a negative connotation, doesn't it? I mean, isn't that supposed to be for opera singers?
It is, sopranos.
We're going to call you 2-time Tony Award winners.
You know what we are? You know what I like? We're bringing back the word dame. Remember that? There were dames on Broadway.
dame.
How about broads?
I like broads.
But there were dames on Broadway. Do you know what I mean?
It's
Mary
true.
Martin, Ethel Merman. They were dames, and not dames in the British sense of the word, but you know,
Workers.
workers that
You know,
do
roll
a
up,
set at the
roll up your
Rainbow
sleeves.
Room.
Yeah, workers,
You
yeah.
know, roll up your
Well, I
sleeves.
think of
Right.
it as you know, great larger-than-life stage personalities, and I was amused, Michael, when before we started, the women were have the makeup done, and there was some discussion about whether or not you were going to come to say hello to Michael in the dressing room. Michael stood up and said, "No, I'll go say hello to them." So, as the director, you know how to treat the dames.
They're worth it.
Are they easy to direct?
Yes. You know, I think we all speak the same language these days, and we can get into very small details and recognize the enormous impact of refining those small details at this point.
But also, you are directing an extremely complicated and beautiful show technically. You are maneuvering this world.
Oh my God!
Well, I thank you
oh
for
my
that.
God!
You know,
Well-
this gorgeous world of New York and the shops and the
Yes, we're all supported
Right.
spectacularly by a great design team.
and the costume changes.
We've all been around this business for a while now, and I'm curious, when you have these great performances, big roles, and we enter in very soon into the Tony Awards season, what do you make of the Tony Awards? What do you make of the politicking for the Tony Awards, the campaigning of the Tony Awards? Are these things as important to you as perhaps they once may have been in your career, or you just let it go?
I try to have low expectations. Therefore, I'm not disappointed. But I also feel like I have 2 Tony Awards, that seems like a lot to me. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't need to prove anything.
Yeah.
So I can just enjoy being on the stage and keeping my nose to the grindstone and doing my job and doing my work and deriving great pleasure and enjoyment from the cast members and particularly Patti on stage. That is such a great privilege.
Back at you,
Yeah.
Christine. Honest to God.
What do
Yeah.
you think about that whole Tony Award
I don't-
talk and scuttlebutt? And,
Well, don't the producers do the campaigning? Because I don't understand. I don't think I've ever campaigned. I don't know how.
Well, they make you go to.
You
the
have to
meet
go
and
to
greet.
all
Oh yeah, they make
Oh yeah.
go to those.
Oh, that's what that is.
I didn't know that was campaigning. I thought that was just something we were obligated to do. I didn't know that was campaigning. So I better behave better. Kidding. No, I think I've always said that you can't compare characters. So I don't understand why we don't have a celebration of the theater and just throw the awards around. You know what I mean? If there's 5 people that they think did a great job directing or designing, throw the awards at them. I think the more it's a competition, the more people feel like losers. And we're celebrating theater. We're celebrating this.
So it's our job to make sure that it is that celebration.
Right.
Right.
It's our job to really look at it that way.
Right.
And to recognize that the recognition is wonderful and every success helps everything else. So it's up to us not to get bogged down
But it's
in the competitive nature
Yeah.
of it and instead think of it as a celebration,
Right.
exactly as you
But
said.
it's crazy how
Only if we let it.
No, but all I'm saying is, the gossip and stuff like that, where all of a sudden something gets a Tony Award because it can go on the road and they can put on their marquee Tony Award winning show, and you're thinking, okay, wait a minute, what are we doing here?
yeah, or they know what they say now. They have so many producers above the title. You know, some shows have 80,000.
They can vote it
and
in.
they all could all vote for their own show. So they actually want 80,000 producers above the title because those are 80,000 votes for the show. That's how crazy it can be, and you can't let it get in the way.
How about those Oscars? Woo! That was our producer.
Mark
Platt.
Platt. Yes, of course. I forgot Mark is producing
Yes.
War Paint. I hope there's not a repeat at the Tony Awards. Can I ask you very quickly, anything you admire about a particular moment that she has in the show?
Oh my
when you're
God,
watching,
there
when you're
are
standing watching her?
more than one moment. I listen to her every single night. I just listen to Christine. Do you know what I mean? It's not that I tune out everybody else, but my ears perk up when Christine is speaking, especially when she's singing. And I would start at the top of the show, if you'd like me to, and point out the moments. Her entrance.
Is it good with a hat?
Hip, hip. She's in my performance. Christine's performance is in my performance.
Because you're responding to her.
Because I love what she's doing as Patti loves Christine. And yes, because
But there's always something alchemical because everything affects everything else.
Yeah.
You know, and you are such an extraordinary instinctual actor that, you know, things come in and they have an effect. And that's equally true of you.
yeah,
And you
exactly.
watch it over time. I mean, I've watched it over time, the way in which they've hooked into one another. It's quite extraordinary, and you know, and that development continues as they get to know each other better.
For me, I can speak personally that Patti has really been an inspiration to me, and she's really made me stronger.
In terms of your performance
Yes.
style? Because you're a good tennis partner, so to speak?
Well, like I say, she put me to work, you know what I'm saying? No slouching.
The lazy one, huh?
No the lazy ones, yeah. Yeah.
well, what a compliment, honey.
No,
And
no,
did they have
really,
different,
it's really true.
different styles? Could you describe them?
Yes,
their different
I do believe that there are different approaches.
And what is Christine's approach, would you say?
I think Christine thinks about things. I think that Christine is, this is true for Patti as well, I'm going to say, extraordinarily language-driven, really wants to really parse what the utterances are and then fills in blanks. And I'm speaking in terrible generalizations, forgive me. And Patti, I think, works, you know, from flesh and blood. So maybe it's a little more kishka. Maybe there's a little more mind and a little more kishka, a little more gut. But they get to a very similar extraordinary place.
It's amazing how much we are similar, Christine and I. We've known each other since we were kids in this business. And we just never associated, hung out, friends, whatever. We've just, like you do know people in show business. And then when we started to work together and just talked, there were so many similarities in our lives, what our priorities are. And then we are so enough different on stage that we are like that.
Compatible.
Yeah.
Yes, like that. And that's so rare, and it's such a joy and such a relief. Do you know what I mean? A lot of times you get on stage, you might get nothing, or you might get hatred. Do you know what I mean? But, do you know what I mean? But then when you have chemistry,
That's it.
It makes
That's
the
key.
job easier in that way.
way easier.
All right, the kishka, and what are you, the
Brain.
the brain, the
I'm
kishka,
the
the kishka, and
You know,
the brain.
nobody likes being.
The kishka and the brain and the director.
I don't mean to boil anyone down.
That's all right. All right. War Paint, starring Patti LuPone and Christine Ebersole, directed by Michael Greif, and it is at the Nederlander Theater. Big, big hit show. You do not want to miss these performances. Thank you all for being our guests tonight.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for that last compliment.
Our thanks to the Friends of Theater Talk for their significant contribution to this production. Theater Talk is made possible in part by the Frederick Lowe Foundation, the Corey and Bob Dinelli Charitable Fund, the Noel Coward Foundation, Carrie J. Fries, the Dorothy Strelson Foundation, and the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs.
We welcome your questions or comments for Theater Talk. Thank you